Hello everyone, my name is Clyde and this ship right up here is the Tashkent 39. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at this ship that has such a strange combination of features that basically nothing makes sense anymore. Or does it? No, nothing makes sense anymore. In the interest of full disclosure, Wargaming provided me this ship for free in the hopes that I would make this review. Wargaming have told us that the Tashkent 39 will be made available to players through a special event called the Marine Stock Exchange. While the information that we've been provided isn't exactly complete, they have told us that players will be able to exchange resources for tokens, and then apparently those tokens for different resources. I know. Anyway, once you've navigated this maze of tokens and currencies, you'll be able to swap some of those tokens for other stuff, including Tashkent 39. Apparently, you'll also be able to snag Hood or Gorizia for tokens as well. So that's neat. Tashkent 39 is a tanky, torpedo-focused destroyer with poor concealment and gunpowder and a very high top speed. Unlike most Soviet destroyers, her playstyle is centered around those torpedo attacks. But unlike a typical torpedo boat, she's outspotted by every destroyer at her tier and every single submarine in the game. If you're wondering if that makes for a good boat, well, you're not alone, honestly. And on paper, this boat doesn't seem to make any sense at all. I mean, why would I play this boat if Shiratsuyu exists? Well, today, we're going to try to find out. This is a video in my hot take series, and if you've never seen one before, I think you're in for a treat. For each hot take, we take a look at a ship's capabilities and compare them against those of its peers, ships of the same tier and class. We rate each capability on a scale of 0 to 5, with 5 being the best. At the end of every hot take, I share with you my build for the ship and the captain, and I tell you why I put the ship together that way. Sound simple enough? All right, let's get to work. For consumables, Tashkent comes with a 4-pack. First, DCP and smoke, just like you'd expect with most destroyers, but not all. She's got a standard 8% speed boost and a torpedo reload booster, which we'll talk about in detail a little bit later. Tashkent 39 has an extremely bland camouflage that she comes with. She's gray with no rust. Being a premium, it does say Tashkent on the side there in Cyrillic characters, which is cool, I guess. But that's it. We just get a rust-free light gray as our premium camouflage. It does come with an alternative color, though. Let's see how exciting it is. It is light blue, kind of. It is basically the same sort of monochromatic color, and it does not shift the color scale at all. It just goes from gray to kind of a blue color. Luckily, there is a second camouflage available. Those are just the two alternates for the permanent camo. The second camouflage adds a little ribbon around the rails and puts these the TW or the T-sh or whatever on the side there in Cyrillic characters. They really haven't pulled out very many of the stops here. I will say that I do like this camo better than the basic one. I do like the little ship identifying Cyrillic characters on the side there, and I do like the ribbon, but man, I wish there was a color on this boat. Thankfully, I was able to put some flags on here. And now we're ready to start talking through the different categories for this ship. Let's talk about the guns first. She has very low DPM for both shell types, and that's because this is Tashkent 39. It's not like the Tier 9 Tashkent. If we take a look, we've just got the 2 single-barrel turrets here up front, and then 1 single-barrel turret out back. And that means 3 guns instead of the 6 that we have on Tashkent proper, up at Tier 9. This gives her the second worst HE DPM of all Tier 7 destroyers, only beating out Z31 from Germany, and the third worst AP DPM, only beating Shiratsuyu and Yudachi. And even those ships, it just barely edges out. Now the guns are 130 millimeters, which is a little bit larger than most destroyers, and I tried several times with good angles to try to get citadels with these guns, and I cannot think of a single time when I actually successfully got a citadel with the Tashkent. By the numbers, it's possible, so I'm going to keep trying. And even though I didn't get citadels, when I was using AP on ships that had showed me a good broadside, I was getting good pen damage. So it is worth switching to the AP when the angles of you and your target are correct. The other thing I'd like to point out is that you should not sleep on these guns. Even though there's only 3 of them, even though the DPM is very, very low, you should use these guns when you have opportunities. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in other sections, but because of the ship's lack of concealment, there will be times when you just can't quite get into position to use your torpedoes, and that means it's time to use the guns, use her tankiness in order to get some work done while you're waiting for an opportunity to strike to pounce with those torpedoes. So don't ignore them just because the DPM is bad, but recognize that you do need to be watching for torpedo opportunities in order to be fully successful and have big, good numbers in this ship. Tashkent is going to get a 2 in the category of main battery because her guns are few in number and they're rather basic in terms of reload and damage. By way of torpedoes, Tashkent 39 has the 6th best torpedo DPM overall of destroyers at her tier, but that rank just doesn't tell the full story. Minsk has such a short torpedo range that her DPM is basically unusable unless you're on a suicide run, so that just doesn't count. Both Vakolin and Mahan have 3 launchers, 2 of which are dedicated, 1 to port and 1 to starboard. Port, starboard. Starboard is right and port is left. Just pretend I did the hands right. Anyway, what that means is that you can't use all of those ships' DPM at once unless you're sailing between 2 different ships, which is insane and very dangerous.
Are you crazy? Don't go between them! Go between them, are you crazy?
At this point, we're only left with Shiratsuyu and Akatsuki. Both of these Japanese destroyers have 10-kilometer torpedoes and much better ship concealment than Tashkent 39. If we just look at these 3 ships, the ability or the range of stealth torpedo firing for each ship is very different. That is the gap between the ship's concealment and the range of its torpedoes. For Tashkent 39, that distance is 2.4 kilometers. For Shiratsuyu, it's 3.6 kilometers, and for the ACAT, it's 4.2. That margin of stealth torpedoing safety is 43% worse on Tashkent 39 than it is on ACAT, which means that you'll be effectively closer to the action with less margin for error when you're playing in the Russian DD. Tashkent 39 has a torpedo reload booster that we saw earlier in the video, but its cooldown period is very long at 5 minutes. When used well, this can cause some incredibly explosive damage to the enemy team, and hopefully you can combine it with your ability to pop smoke and maybe even escape with your high speed in order to do it again 5 minutes later. Shiratsuyu also has a torpedo reload booster, and it reloads in 160 seconds, which is 2 minutes and 20 seconds faster than that of Tashkent 39. All in all, I'd rate Tashkent's torpedo armament as on par with that of Shiratsuyu, and so I'm going to score Tash 39's torpedoes as a 4 out of 5, leaving that concealment concerns out of the score because that's kind of part of the next category. Next, we're going to talk about survivability and concealment for Tashkent 39. This is a really difficult category to score, fully independent of the other categories in this rubric, but honestly, it's probably better this way because you're going to get a better sense of what it's really like to play Tashkent 39 in terms of her strength and survivability. Tashkent 39 is very tanky. She has more hit points than any other Tier 7 destroyer in the game, and in fact, out of all 156 destroyers in this game, she ranks 21st regardless of tier. She's a Tier 7 destroyer that has more hit points than Grozavoy, or Daring, or Kitakaze, or Mogador, or Kunming, which is a super ship, or Vampire 2, just to name some of the ships that she beats. She's only 600 hit points behind her Tier 9 counterpart, the Tashkent proper. And obviously some of those ships have a hull repair, which is going to give them an advantage in health over the course of an entire battle. But when the bell rings at the start of the battle, T-39 has more hit points than all of those guys. When she's top tier, she can really hang in a gunfight with a higher DPM destroyer longer than she should be able to, because she's just got so many hit points for the other ship to dig through. When she's bottom tier, things are a little bit harder for her. Now, her concealment is also the absolute worst at Tier 7, 7.6 kilometers even when you're fully built for it, and if you combine that with her high speed, this can get you into a lot of trouble early in the battle. You might push forward too fast, too early, where all of the enemy DDs and submarines are still alive and they all outspot you. And that means that there's 12 hungry ships on the other side that would love to get an early destroyer kill, and you're super easy to see. Early in the match, it's really important for you to hang back at the edge of your spotting range and just kind of spar with the enemy destroyers using your high speed to avoid incoming fire, since your rudder shift is so poor. You can also kind of coax them into shooting because they can definitely see you, and once they shoot, your allies can take them out. It's actually really nice to have a div mate with Tashkent 39. While you're dancing like this, you're going to use your hit points to survive, waiting on an opportunity to strike out with your torpedoes, which is how you're going to get the bulk of the damage in Tashkent 39. Her survivability is strange, but it feels fairly balanced in my experience. I'm going to rate it a 3 out of 5 in this category. If you're playing objectives at all, you're going to take a little bit of damage here, a little bit of damage there, but with practice, you can dodge a good portion of the incoming fire, and when you screw up, you do have enough health to take a hit or two. Next up, anti-aircraft capability. Tashkent 39's AA armament is fairly useless, and annoyingly, you're spotted a lot of the time, which means that CVs are going to pay you frequent visits. While the 128 hit points of combined medium and short-range DPS is a fairly average number for a tier 7 destroyer, her AA guns only really reach 2.5 kilometers at their longest range, which is a bit shorter than the average max AA range of 4 kilometers for tier 7 destroyers. I'm going to rank Tashkent's AA a 2, which honestly is probably a little bit generous. For ASW capability, Tashkent has the second worst number of depth charges with the second worst flood chance, so we're starting off great. Sarcasm, by the way. She does have some high speed, and while you could try to use that speed to get on top of a submarine, it's really, really dangerous to do so, plus it's kind of ineffective. Remember, the submarine is spotting you from 7.6 kilometers, which means as you're approaching them, they're just watching, invisible, and they can move around and try to counter your movements with relative ease, provided they're at periscope depth or even just on the surface with a concealment that's probably 2 kilometers better than yours. Also, if the sub has any allies or help at all, they've been spotting you this whole time, which means you're trying to pounce on the sub and their friends are shooting you while you do it, and you're distracted by a submarine that's been pinging you like crazy, and you're not able to do anything other than drive to try to chase a submarine that you can't really find and get shot at by the friends of the submarine. When compared against other ships of her class and tier, Tashkent 39 really only beats one ship, and that's Leningrad. She finds herself tied with several other ASW underperformers like Minsk, FR-25, or Blizkowicza. As a result, I'm going to give her 1 point in this category, and I'm sorry but not sorry. Tash 39 is the fastest destroyer tier 7. You guys know I love speedy boats, and this is the speediest in her class. She's even faster than Leningrad by almost 2 knots. I had the ship going 50.5 knots in one match with my speed boost activated and a speed flag mounted. It's hard to say for some reason. The speed that I talked a little bit about this earlier, that speed can get you into trouble, especially when you couple it with that poor concealment. So you need to really be cognizant of where you are and where you're going to be in a very short period of time. So keep your eye on the mini-map. Just as much as it can get you into trouble, though, that same speed can get you out of trouble.
Although the rudder shift
is certainly not helping matters, you can kind of race away from danger just as easily as you can race into it. Even with that rudder shift, I'm going to give Tashkent 39 a 4 in the maneuverability category because I find her maneuverability generally excellent, and I really like fast destroyers. Is Tashkent 39 easy to play? Yeah, probably for players with self-control. I'm not sure I know anybody like that. Listen, I have 1,400 days of premium time. I don't know if I have the kind of self-control that you need to play Tashkent 39. It's not a complicated ship to play. You don't want to get too close. Great. I need to understand when I'm outspotted, and I need to fall back until I have support. Fine, whatever. I need to not ignore the guns because low DPM ain't no DPM. I need to make sure that I'm using my torpedo reload booster and not leaving one of those on the table at the end of a match. I need to watch the minimap and identify possible torpedoing opportunities and move into position using my high speed to take advantage of them when they do come up. And if that sounds easy, then listen really closely to this part because obvious advice is coming right now. Tashkent 39 can do some things very well, but she can't do everything. That's obvious. Everybody knows that not all ships can do everything, but Tashkent 39 can't do some things that destroyers should be able to do. That doesn't mean that she's not a fun ship. It doesn't mean that she can't do things. It means that she's not going to do some of the things that you just in your head assume you can do because you're in a destroyer. She can't push a cap defended by a Velos and a Friesland and a Dmitry Donskoy. Velos is going to spot you, Friesland is going to farm you from smoke with its hydros up so you can't even torpedo it, and Donskoy is going to radar you from complete safety. You'll never even see the Velos. That kind of enemy cap defense is extremely common in World of Warships. In that situation, you need to learn how to read the tea leaves and wait. Exercise that self-control. Don't just go, I'm a destroyer, I guess I gotta fight this. This is actually good advice for every destroyer, but it's particularly critical for Tashkent 39 play. Don't listen to that guy on your team in the FPG who's going, "Hey, DD, get in there and do your job." That guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what a Tashkent 39 is, and he doesn't know that it's a better defender than it is an attacker. Some of my best matches resulted in poking the enemy from the edge of my range with my limited gun DPM and dodging incoming fire until the enemy got too confident and they pushed in. If they did so supported by large ships, landing torpedoes was easy. You can launch 18 of them in relatively short order. I'm going to rate Tashkent 39 a 2 in the category of ease of play, because while she's not hard to play, you're going to have a much better time if you learn how to ask her to do the things that she's good at instead of asking her to do the things that she's really not good at. And some of the things that she's really not good at are common destroyer activities. So you have to be able to tell the difference between when you're in a match in a Tashkent 39 and when you're in a match in pretty much any other kind of destroyer. Okay, now let's talk about fun. Is Tashkent 39 fun to play? I would say this destroyer is sometimes incredibly fun to play. Like when you get the right spawn, or when the enemy doesn't have that many destroyers or submarines that can outspot you, and when you're top tier, this ship is incredibly fun to play. And especially when she's top tier, she can really bully other ships, and her low gun DPM doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. Other times, you log in and you've got 4 Jutlans and a U-190 supported by a pair of divisioned Alaskas, which is awful. I know that you could say matchmaking really makes the ship either fun or not fun about any ship, but when the matchmaking is rough like that, that self-control that we were just talking about is really, really critical in order for you to be successful in this boat. And being successful in a boat is fun. I think Tashkent 39 is really, really intense to play. I think she's highly tactical, and I think that sometimes playing a boat like that is a really fun challenge. I like that. I like to play boats that are, I even hesitate to say this because it's a weird phrase, but I like to play boats that are sometimes a little bit underpowered or a little bit weird to play, or that force your hand to do different kinds of things that are not normal, just go out there and do a ton of damage and get work done, because that's an interesting challenge and it gives us a new experience in World of Warships. That said, like I said, winning is really fun, and a boat that's really reliable and still is very intense to play and has poor concealment and has similar torpedo DPM and 66% more gun DPM is Leningrad. I think in most in-game situations, I'd probably rather be in Leningrad than Tashkent 39. But you guys know I'm super, super biased towards run and gun destroyers. And if you don't know that, hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Clyde. That doesn't mean that I regret logging into a game in Tashkent 39. It's fun, it's challenging, and when you kick off an amazing torpedo run, it is incredibly satisfying. Now for you Torp lords among us, this is probably not the description of a boat that you would have thought you wanted, right? You Torp guys really like low concealment, or I should say low detection range, tons of torpedoes and all that stuff. This boat does not meet a need that the market was asking about. But you might find this boat weird enough, unique enough, tanky enough, torpedo-y enough that it's worth whatever kind of weird currency exchange scheme Wargaming's cooked up for us this time. I'm going to rate the boat a 2 for fun, and again, it's just because I think that most players would be like, why would I take this when I can take something broken and overpowered? And the answer is because it's fun. But I think for players like me who don't mind a challenge every now and again, I think Tashkent 39 is super fun and so rewarding. So it's really hot and cold, but I'm going to rate it a 2 because I think that's going to be the most common value that you'd get from people in the community. Will we see Tashkent 39 in competitive modes? You guys who watch these videos know that I almost always say no, definitely not, but I've been wrong before. I will tell you that I think the answer for this ship is also no. And the reason for that is that if you're talking about tournament play or something like a clan battles play, if we ever get a tier 7 season, the answer for me would be no, because the ship is so easily spotted that a group of players on Discord coordinating fires and setting up firing lanes is going to be able to nuke an easily spotted destroyer like Tashkent 39 without any issue whatsoever. That said, for things like ranked, where there's less coordination, the players aren't all on voice, I think you could get away with playing Tashkent 39, but I just don't think she'd be the best pick I think you'd be better off in, you know, Leningrad for sure. I am going to say that this is going to get a 1 out of 5 for competitive. If you think I'm wrong, though, I'd love to know why in the comments down below. So hit me up and let me know what you think, because competitive is definitely an area that I'd like to learn more about the community's general opinions on. For my 21-point commander build, what I've done is a fairly standard first 10. We went with preventative maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, and concealment expert. I did go with radio location, which is a skill I don't often pick because I'm so easily spotted. I figure this will let me know what direction those ships that are spotting me are located in so that I can maybe avoid them or push them if I ever have the opportunity to do that. I've got Adrenaline Rush, which helps me to increase my DPM as I take damage throughout the battle. Fill the Tubes reloads my torpedoes 10% faster, and that brings the reload time down to 90 seconds, as you can see there. And then I had a spare point, so I threw it into Liquidator, which does a 30% increase to the chance of flooding with torpedoes. So there you have it. That is the hot take on Tashkent 39. Don't forget to check out the link to the shared Google spreadsheet, which has all of the other hot take videos that we've taken. That's down in the description of this video. Let me know what you guys think. This is such an odd ship. She is totally a strangely built torpedo boat, which exchanges her concealment for more durability, which should net out to give us similar damage capabilities and battle influence capabilities. Will you be trying to figure out if you can add the Tashkent 39 to your port? If so, why? What made you think this ship was interesting? If not, why not? What made you think this ship was not for you? I'd love to have your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching this and everything else on Clyde Plays, and I hope that you have a great time, and I don't know, that's weird. I hope you have good battles, and we'll see you in the next video, live stream, or battle. Speaking of live streams, why don't you come hang out with us over at twitch.tv/ClydePlaysLive. We do World of Warships 3 times a week, and we would love to have you come and hang out as part of the live show. All that said, thanks so much again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next battle. Take care, be cool, be nice, and we will see you later. Bye, Captains. You may just find that the Tashkent 39 is unique enough, torpy enough, that whatever kind of weird, wacky... Whoops.